Dragon folk. How we all doing? Hopefully everybody's doing well. I might be a little soft spoken during this video. I have some sleeping boys back here, so I'm gonna try not to wake them. But today, we're actually going to be talking about something that I've been wanting to cover for a couple days ever since the live stream went through, but actually have the time today to do it, so luckily we're going to do that. We're talking about the Battle for Baldur's Gate. So, Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate was announced a long time ago, but they finally came up with a sneak peek into the set. This is a set specifically for Commander. So these Commander cards will only be used for Commander, and that is it. But luckily, Commander being one of the more popular sets in Magic the Gathering, this is going to be a set many people are going to want to get. And I'm excited for it, but I'm not too, jazzed about it all. Mainly because I think a lot of it is... A lot of it's based around draft. And I don't often play draft, and I know that drafting is a huge thing for people of the Magic the Gathering community. I know drafting is big. A lot of people love playing draft and playing limited, and I think that that's fantastic. I think that you should still play the things you love, so on and so forth. But here's the deal. I don't often draft. I play a lot of constructed. That's mainly my thing. And I don't have the people to play Commander with at all times. So it's kind of interesting how it's all working out. But limited is very fun, and I like draft when I do it every now and again. So maybe they'll make this a more pleasant draft experience, since it seems that draft in standard sets seems to be dropping in popularity for quite some time now. And I believe I said, even in one of the earlier videos when I was going over the sets for New Capenna, they didn't say anything special about draft boxes. They were just like, well, if you want to draft, here are these, right? I don't know. It's all up to the individual, but some sets have a good draft, some sets have a bad draft. This set seems to have most of its focus around draft, drafting specifically the Commander stuff, but... who's to say, right? Who's to say how many of these things will be used in previous things? So, Battle for Baldur's Gate, this is actually a kind of a tie-in with the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms set that came out. That was, when was that? 4 sets ago already. Holy crap. Last year, probably. Adventures in the Forgotten Realms came out, which is a Dungeons and Dragons themed set. This, much like that, is a Dungeons & Dragons themed set based around the Forgotten Realms. So, how this works is a lot of the mechanics from the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms series have come back, and a lot of other mechanics also have been added in that are very based around the Dungeons & Dragons lore and gameplay style. How they do this is I'll kind of go over some of the stuff. What they've introduced is legendary enchantments that you can partner with your commanders. So that's what these backgrounds are. Essentially what they are is that they're legendary like I said, they're legendary backgrounds that you can pair up with your commander. So your commander must have a choose your background or choose a background. I can't remember what exactly it says. What does it say? Choose a background. Choose a background, and that means that you can essentially partner them with a legendary enchantment, which allows you to increase the different colors you can have in your deck. So, for instance, like here, right? Volo is a blue commander, right? But if you choose a white legendary enchantment as your background, your deck will be blue-white. So that helps in response to drafting. Gives you more of an open field as opposed to just like building mono colored decks. It's able to splash in other colors where you want them to be. And these legendary enchantments are pretty powerful. They specifically only affect your commander, and you can play them as is, right? For instance, Noble Heritage here costs 1 white and 1 generic. Says commander creatures you own have, when this creature enters the battlefield and at the beginning of your upkeep, each player may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature they control. For each opponent who does, you gain protection from that player until the end of your next turn. So, yeah, until your next turn. So, these work much like they do, right? They specifically enchant the field with your commander creatures, right? So, commander creatures you control are not any legendary creature. It is your commander. So if your commander happens to be Volo, this legendary enchantment, even though it can stay on the field, will not affect anything so long as you don't have your commander on the board. Which is good, because it's then not just putting legendary enchantments on there. It's kind of a neat concept in how they do this, right? Without getting into too much detail of Dungeons & Dragons, when you make a character in Dungeons & Dragons, you get to have a background, and that background kind of defines how your character grew up, how your character's personality is, and kind of their hardships that they may have gone through in their life. And what this does in Magic the Gathering is you essentially choose a commander, and that commander can then get a background. So it's much akin to Flesh and Blood in that way, where you're playing like your main hero, and then you can equip things to your main hero, and then like your hero is like the one doing a lot of the attacking, as opposed to anything else. But it's an interesting concept. I think it's cool. Although, same deal, like I said, I mean, throughout most of this live stream they did, it was a lot of them talking about how this can be used in draft, but of course can be used in other places too throughout the commander format. Another thing they added in here is the initiative keyword. So for instance, this card right here, when White Plume Adventure enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. So I'm sure you can read this little thing. I'm sure it explains it, but essentially the initiative is much like Monarch, where you have a token here, and you have that token if you take the advantage, or the initiative. And when you take the initiative, whenever one or more creatures a player controls deals combat damage to you, that player takes the initiative. So you get to hold on to it until somebody else deals damage to you. Then they take the initiative, right? And then whenever you take the initiative and at the beginning of your upkeep, venture into the Undercity. So dungeons are back, right? As per the AFR stuff, right? They introduced the dungeoneering mechanic. And the only dungeon that they really added in here was this Undercity, right? And I don't know if there's a way for me to zoom in. It's a little bit better. Whoops. It's fine. So how this works, right, is this is just another dungeon. But you can't venture into this dungeon with any of the cards that say venture into a dungeon. You can only venture into the Undercity with the initiative card. So it's a special kind of dungeon. It looks like it does, there's many different ways you can go about doing this dungeon. But I think at the end of the day, right, it's a trek, and you have to really be having a pretty hefty mechanic into this dungeon. The cool thing is, though, is that after you have ventured into the Undercity, anything that says, enter the dungeon as a card, so any of the cards from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, or any of the stuff even from the Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate, that will all move you forward in the dungeon, and you don't have to choose a new dungeon, which is really great. But specifically for the Undercity, you need to have the initiative, right? And that gets you into the Undercity. And if you're in a dungeon, advance to the next room. If you're not, enter the Undercity. You can only take the initiative even if you can take the initiative even if you've already have it. So it's an interesting concept. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with Commander, and I don't think this is gonna see a lot of play. I think the only time you're ever gonna see play like this is during the drafts, but I don't expect to see this do too much play. It's kind of like with the werewolves and everything, with the night and day cycles and the day bound and night bound. You have to like make it your mechanic. The entire aesthetic of your deck has to be this specific thing in order for it to actually matter. And I don't think anybody's gonna do that. I could be wrong, right? It could top tournaments the second it freaking comes out, but I don't know. We'll have to see. But anyway, there's that. There, of course, going to be dragons, right? And then also the return of gates. So gate decks seem to be pretty popular. They're much like shrines in the sense, but they've added 9 gates, I believe, which are each part of a gate of Baldur's Gate, which is a city in Dungeons and Dragons. So gates have been added in. Pretty normal stuff there. It's mainly just legendary lands that do some fun stuff every now and again, depending on what gate you have. So we'll keep an eye out for what these gates do. Myriad is back. So Myriad, returning mechanic that lets a creature attack in all possible directions. Whenever a creature you control with Myriad attacks for each opponent other than the defending player, you may create a token that's a copy of this creature to attack the opponent or a planeswalker that opponent controls. With Myriad, you can attack everyone at once, or if you're feeling particularly political, just some of them. Because you may create each token, you can decline to create tokens for some of your opponents. Attacking a planeswalker will also cause Myriad to trigger, as a planeswalker's controller is the defending player. The tokens basically copy what's printed on the creature with Myriad and not much else. If Battle Angels of Tyr has any auras or equipments attached to it, those don't get copied. Same's true for +1/+1 counters, or any non-copy effects that have changed its power, toughness, or abilities. At the end of combat, the tokens are exiled. They don't go to the graveyard, so no ability that triggers whenever a creature dies will trigger. Another important point is that the tokens enter the battlefield tapped and attacking. This means that that they were never declared as attackers. So if you have any abilities that would trigger when a creature attacks, those abilities won't trigger. Put another way, Myriad won't cause itself to trigger. So Myriad is a way for you to attack all your opponents at the same time. And Battle Angels of Tyr specifically also has a special thing where, depending on the certain parameters of the opponents that you're attacking, you get certain abilities, right? So Myriad's kind of a fun way to attack everybody, or also just one person. It's all depending on if you want to do that. Of course, it says that once the combat step ends, the tokens are exiled, so don't worry about keeping them. They're not going to stay on the board. It's just specifically a way for you to deal damage to everybody instead of just one person. I don't know. I haven't seen it used. I don't know how much it's used in Commander. I don't know how many cards in this set will have Myriad, but Myriad's fun as far as, Commander being a 4-player format. Having something like this is definitely fun in regards to, making sure everybody gets a little bit of pain when they're going through with attacks. Adventures also have made a comeback. Adventures were introduced in Throne of Eldraine. They're really, really cool cards. Essentially, they work as instants or sorceries as one part, and then they get exiled, and then you can still summon them for their other half, or whatever they may be. You can cast them for their other half, and it's usually a creature or an artifact or something of the sort. that can sit on the board. So, and you don't even have to cast the sorcery of the instant part, that left side over here. You don't have to cast that if you don't want to. You can always spend this casting cost up here and cast it. But most people will probably do this. So you get a lot of different cards available to you in Adventure, which is really cool because adventures are a big thing, right? Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, Battle for Baldur's Gate, like D&D is very big on adventuring, so that is understandable as to why they made those additions. It's very, very cool, right? I'm happy to see it. Whether at release events or playing with friends and family at home, you'll find the Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate full of powerful cards, fun new mechanics, clever references, and more than a little nostalgia for D&D fans. So what are you waiting for? Gather up your party and let's get ready for adventure. So my closing thoughts on this, right? Closing thoughts on everything. I think the backgrounds are a cool idea. I'm curious to see where those are going to get added into. Everything else, I couldn't be less excited for. And I know that doesn't really matter to me because, like, I don't play paper. Like I said, I don't really play draft a whole lot. I don't do a lot of these things. I think a draft could be cool, but if I'm being entirely honest, I don't think anything in here is going to be super crazy powerful to the point where it's going to skyrocket like Jeweled Lotus did. I could be wrong, of course. Same deal. I don't know too much in regards to what the actual market cares for yet. In regards to the set, we don't have access to all of the cards that are coming in it yet. So spoiler season's obviously coming in as we go. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be... It's like it said, it seems like it's a more nostalgia set, right? AFR, when it came out, did not get a whole lot of love from the community, even though a lot of the cards were nostalgic, right? They were from the Forgotten Realms, heroes from the Forgotten Realms in there, very powerful dragon creatures, the module lands that came in, the land cycle was very popular. People still don't really like it because it's not actually in the Magic the Gathering universe, and its power level wasn't too fantastic. Old Gnawbone aside, its power level wasn't too fantastic according to other players. So I don't know, right? I think I'd love to open it, right? Here on the channel, we like to open boxes, and I'd be more than happy to open one. I don't know whether or not I'll be getting a collector booster box or a set booster box or something of the kind for this, because frankly, I just don't know what exactly I'm looking for. I don't know what would be worth and what would not be worth getting, but I do know at the end of the day that I personally am not super hyped about the set, but as many collectors and investors, and not really players because you can just buy your singles, but a lot of collectors and investors and people who like to sit on cardboard will say is that if you miss out on a set, right, even if everybody says the set's garbage and there's no money in the set, there's nothing to do with the set's stupid to keep, you shouldn't keep anything about it, it's only going to go down to zero and you're never going to make any money off of it, keep it sealed, right? I guarantee if this draft ends up being so incredibly cool and people like 20 years down the line want to play a Commander Legends Commander draft from Battle for Baldur's Gate, where you get to have a whole bunch of legendary heroes and their backgrounds and do all this, that, and the other, I think that it works out pretty well. But I think that's all I view it as. It's kind of like they made another board game for Magic the Gathering, but instead of making it an actual board game, they made it a set and had it available in Commander. So we'll see what happens, I guess, but that's just kind of my 2 cents in the matter, trying to figure out what I like about Commander in this specific set. I personally think that out of the 2 sets that are come out, this one and the Double Masters 2022, Double Masters 2022 is going to be the more popular set by far, even though they have that absolute BS with the 4-pack collector's box for $240. But, that's a different video, right? Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. I do appreciate it. I know this is kind of a little overview, essentially, of what they've given us for these sets. And I truly do hope it goes over well. I hope that people like the set. I hope it does well in the format. I hope that everybody enjoys playing it at their locals, and I hope they enjoy drafting it. If I get an opportunity to buy this set, I will probably buy a couple, but it's not looking too fantastic for me. I think I'd rather allocate my money elsewhere. Maybe even sets that are more big in like Pioneer, since Pioneer is like an up and coming big thing right now. And who knows, right? Only time will tell, and we're not fortune tellers. I can't opt into the future and see what exactly I'm going to be getting. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. I do appreciate your support. I know this is kind of a ranty video, but just kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of what the set does and how to best prepare yourself for it, right? It can be fun, or it could not be fun. It depends what kind of Magic player you are. So, thank you again. Please make sure to like the video and also subscribe to the channel as well if you have not already. That stuff all helps the algorithm and gets my videos out to more people who would enjoy this kind of content on a regular basis. We do also have links in the description below for a Patreon if you're willing to support me there. I do certainly appreciate it. We like to eventually get into box breaks and battles and so on and so forth, and hopefully with Patreon support we can make that happen. So thank you again. Make sure to drink your water, eat your vegetables, and don't be a dick. And I will see you all in the next video. All right, guys. Nerd out.